The Wests Tigers podcast is brought to you by the Wests Tigers Podcast Forum. Join the conversation today at weststigerspodcast.com.au.
It's the West Tigers podcast. It is a Sunday night and it's a post-match edition of the West Tigers podcast. Unfortunately, a post-loss edition of the West Tigers podcast. 24 points to 10 against the Raiders down in Canberra on Saturday afternoon. The halftime score, the Raiders led just by 2 points, 12 points to 10. We've got that extra 12 points in the second half. Declan is here. Zach is here. And let's start off as per our tradition with one word. Declan, how are you? What have you got for us, one word to describe that game against the Green Machine?
I think I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to go one positive word and one negative word.
Okay.
And I'll start with positive. I think defensively, I think that's my word for positive because I think Api Coruscant, he made something like 60 tackles. Alex Twal made 50 tackles. And I think Terrell May also made 50 tackles. So I just think that they did such a good job of handling that big, robust Canberra Raiders pack in an effort and physicality, which you like to go back to, Joe. I haven't seen that kind of physicality in a really, really long time. And besides that last try, I thought we matched it with them like pretty much for the entire game. And it was just that they you could tell that they were just exhausted at that point, and they just kind of ran out of tank towards the very end, which made it look a little bit more of a blowout than it actually was. Yeah. Which then unfortunately goes to the negative part, which is my one word, which is kicking. I just felt that a lot of our kicks kind of let us down. I think we ran the ball on fifth when we probably should have tried to play that bit more field position and territory. And I think that was the main difference of the game because Jamal Fogarty managed to return the ball to us on our 10, but we just couldn't really manage to get any good field or territory in their half to get that elusive try that would put us within two. So those are my two words for the game.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And one of those games where you can find a positive and a negative. And a couple of those things that you're referencing are on the sheet to talk about, including some of the stats, which are pretty amazing, actually, some of the individual stats and team stats as well. Zach, what do you got for us for one word, please?
This week, Joel, I got evidence. And it's just another piece of evidence that the team has the capacities in all areas of the game. We saw that defensive effort that we were just talking to a moment ago, and it was just all elements of it. It's more evidence that they can go with a top team. It's evidence that they can match and dominate a pack when they actually show up and they're on. The challenge then becomes, okay, we've seen moments of attacking brilliance. We've seen now the evidence of the defensive structures and probably more appropriately the defensive attitudes. It's now, rightio, heading into this off-season, can this side take that next step and combine it all together? We've seen the evidence of the elements. It's whether or not they can mix it together and make it work.
Yeah, and interestingly, like the last couple of weeks, we've spoken about the front rowers and the props and that. And then if you look at that team yesterday, that performance, you'd almost say, again, and coming back to some of those stats that we'll read out, like if they can perform at that level every week, it would still be nice to have one more dynamic prop in there. But boy, they're looking even more complete than what we thought they might have been, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it just goes to show that a lot of it's mindset. And whether that's a developing mindset and they are learning how to do that, which I'm hopeful that it is, or whether it's something that, we're finally able to get the right players in the right positions to do that. But again, like I've said a few times in recent times, they are their own worst enemy in some ways because they are showing us what they can do, which means that our expectations are rising about what we kind of will start to expect moving forward.
Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun in terms of like the schedule what we're going to talk about, but I thought that it was another game where I thought the bench kind of let us down. I think that we started so well with the starting 13. We really matched it with them. But then when we started making substitutions, it was kind of like, oh, we just need to survive this. Like there wasn't that injection of like some sort of like energy or talent where we could break the game open. I think that's where the Raiders kind of had it over us a little bit because they had much more impact from their bench. And we're kind of really like putting pressure on guys like Trell May, Api Coruscant to get through that defensive work. I think Api made more tackles than Starling and I think their bench hooker. I think he made 20 more tackles than both of them combined. So he's getting over like 3 times more work than them, which is obviously going to sap him in attack. So I think that like the starting team is looking really good, but we just need reinforcements in some form for next season so we can have a deeper team that can go 17 on 17.
I agree for the most part, with the exception of when Royce sort of lost his head a little bit. Up until that, I thought Royce's stint was relatively good. He was pretty impactful with the ball. Defensively, he's relatively solid. We know he can get a bit sloppy at times around the middle there, but he was a real threat when he came on. But yeah, I got to agree. I mean, I think we all know why Sukar and Murray are on the bench there at the moment, and it's essentially we don't have really anybody else, particularly with Seyfarth out, to replace them. So I'm sure, given next year we're starting to sort of raise that next couple of fringy. So at the very least, when we are a little bit short, to the point we can get a bit more impact off that bench.
Well, it doesn't look like we're losing any forwards. Like essentially, the pack that we had yet on Saturday is going to be there next year. All things, touch wood. You never speak too confidently as a West Tigers fan, but and you add in Kai Pearce-Paul, then maybe that shifts Sione onto the bench, which all of a sudden the bench is starting to look a little bit better, and we're still at maybe that one player, that one impact player on the bench. But I thought, Royce had a pretty good game off the bench. I also, because it was a loss, but it was a confusing loss, I came up with a few different words. I've got physicality, but I thought, damn it, we really matched it with the Raiders and we smashed them. Like some of that, we'll get to some of those stats in a minute, especially the meters made compared to Canberra. It was one of the most physically dominating West Tigers performances that I've seen for quite a while. I've got simply respectable. It was a respectable loss. And even if you're Canberra, you're going to go through a season and you're going to lose a few games. Like losing is part of the game. And sometimes losing is okay if it's a respectable loss. As much as we hate it, as much as it hurts, as much as nobody likes to win, nobody likes to lose, and we all love to win, sometimes a respectable loss is an okay sort of thing, if that makes sense. And refereed. We were refereed out of that game in the second half. The Raiders got 6 second half penalties. We got none. And Benji was asked about it in the press conference and he didn't want to comment on it. He said, I'm not going to, take the spotlight away. And it's too late in the season probably to make any difference anyway. But were you also sitting there, gentlemen? Declan, I'll throw to you first if you like. I could say I was pulling my hair out, but I haven't got very much to pull out. But that second half, it just felt like everything went their way when it came to the refereeing.
Yeah, the referee looked like I hadn't seen him before, so I just assumed that he was new to the job, and he seemed quite pedantic, and he was really pulling up like everything. In the first half, I thought he was like equally doing it to both teams. Like you would look at something, and then I didn't really see why that was a penalty. But then the second half, as the Raiders got more possession naturally, he started to penalise them like us more. And yeah, just that disruptor one at the end. I know that wasn't the on-field, that was the video referee, but it's just does my head in because I genuinely don't think that Bula was going up as a disruptor. I think he just mistimed his jump and then like pulled out of it, which I think he was genuinely contesting. And that was a crucial point of the game because we were still only 8 points behind. And if we score there, it's 2 with like 8 minutes left. So it's a completely different game at that point. But, one of those other times where like, and it just felt to me like, I'm not sure if this is just because I'm a Tigers fan, but like the way it was commentated, the fact that Andrew Abdo was there to like lift the trophy, it really felt that it was going to be like a Raiders win.
Their day.
Yeah, it was going to be their day. And I don't think the referee did much to help us in that respect. But like at the end of the day, I think the Raiders did deserve to win, but we didn't really get a lot of the rub of the green, especially in that second half.
Well, you mentioned commentary. The first thing I've written on my run sheet, because I always start at the top and I put the score, I put the 2 team names and halftime, full time. And then the first thing I've written, and I wrote it after 2 minutes of watching the Fox commentary, was commentary on mute. So that's the first thing on my running sheet. Zach, your opinion on the referee's performance in the second half, is it, and it happens so often, the lesser team, the lower ranked team, seems to just be treated a little bit like lepers, and the team that's up in the top 4 or top 8 get treated like there's some sort of special, royalty by the referees sometimes. They get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I think Declan summed it up really well, particularly in that first half. We got away with a lot around the ruck too, to be perfectly honest. I know we threw one clear forward pass that was
Mm.
laughably not picked up. So I thought in the first half, to be honest, he was just bad. I know this is not the ref's review channel, but it was a poor performance, and it looked to me like a junior referee who was trying to show his bosses that he doesn't miss anything. And Declan, I think he used the word pedantic, bang on the money. That's what he was. It looks like he was looking for anything that he possibly could to make sure that he didn't make an error. And by virtue of that fact, we found ourselves just sort of jolting from moment to moment within the game. So it was clunky in the first half, but that second half, for me, you do see elements of that unconscious, subconscious bias come in, and um, there is just moments where I think those junior referees have the propensity maybe to be pulled in the direction of crowds or moments or teams or jersey colours or whatever the case may be. There's nothing malicious in it, but it's quite difficult to not see that as a Tigers fan, because given where we've been for a long period of time, that's something that's right in the forefront of our minds. But like we say, we've got to rise above it, and we have frequently a couple of times this year been able to get over a couple of contentious refereeing decisions. So there's no reason we can't continue to. But yeah, it's frustrating for sure.
Yeah, even the Appy tackle and Tapane, like it was completely fine. He did nothing wrong. If anything, he put himself in more of a dangerous position than the actual guy with the ball. But because like the Raiders players get up and react, it's a penalty. So it just shows you like how you might be a little bit inexperienced and just like, oh well, this is the Raiders here. Joe Tapine, he's an international front rower. He's calling for a penalty, and I should give it. And then when you go back to the video referee, like there's just nothing to it. And I saw that even Ricky Stewart was having a blow up about it, calling it a cannon tackle. And I was like, mate, what are you talking about? That is the opposite of a cannonball tackle. It's just ridiculous and laughable.
That was on that, Declan, quickly, just what Ricky said. That was really disappointing because if you watch Benji's press conference, which I'm sure you fellas did, but he was all class. Like Benji flat out refused to mention the referees. He gave Canberra their flowers on a wonderful season, and it was full stop the end. And then you get Ricky, who's in there whinging, and he won, and he just won. Really, really poor. I would have expected Ricky to come out and put that aside and say, full credit to the Tigers. They rocked up today and gave us a good fair shout. But I was pretty put out by that, to be honest. Not that it matters, but I
Yeah.
didn't like it.
Old habits die hard from Ricky, and once you're a victim, sometimes you're always a victim. I think that's Ricky. Speaking of that press conference, Benji said it was an effort to be proud of. So let's go a little bit more macro away from the game and the specifics of the game. We'll come back into that. Zach, the West Tigers in previous years, like a lot of NRL teams who are struggling, whose season is over, sometimes you feel the intensity come off. But that was a performance where the West Tigers looked like they were playing for something. They looked like their season was on the line. And I know you use the word evidence, and it is strong evidence, but maybe the culture, maybe the actual club has turned the corner now. And I'm not saying that's guaranteed top 8 next season, but as a fan, isn't it a different experience to see a team that not only has some skill and ability, but you can see hasn't given up?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been a side for eons who have surrendered meekly into that good night towards the back end of seasons. Even when we had eighth spot on the line, we have surrendered meekly, two occasions from memory. So that is something that we've grown accustomed to. And I've spoken in the past about turning the corner moments over the course of this year. And I think some of them we've nailed, surprisingly, and others we've unsurprisingly missed. I think the way we've finished this season, Joel, is another sign that this is different this time. I think we are turning that corner. We're nowhere near going right around it for sure. And we've got, there's a lot to play out over the next however long into next year, though. The ability when you are playing, particularly off a rough loss last year, your season was effectively ended. To then turn around, go down to the nation's capital against the best side in the competition, absolutely belt them from pillar to post, running into a headwind in that first half, and then to have no decisions really go your way and still, hold your heads high, losing your halfback last week for the season. It's a testament to the mentality of the group, and it really makes me excited. And I know I don't want to talk pre and 26 yet, but it does make me excited because a side that drops their heads at the back end of the season, they've got to pick them back up again a month or two later, and sometimes that can be hard work.
It's almost, Declan, like we're, for the first time in eons, actually carrying some momentum into the preseason rather than it sort of being a, starting from scratch sort of proposition. It feels like we've kind of got a team there that we can then hone and regroup over the offseason, come back bigger and better, which is so different.
Yeah, I think it all really comes down to like Benji Marshall and the kind of culture he's installed. And obviously the senior leaders, because they obviously implement what Benji's trying to do. But I think we've talked about all season how like there is a connection between like a lot of these players. Like they do genuinely all seem to have a good kind of, I don't want to say like you can see like the positive body language out when they play. So even when there's nothing to play for in the season, you can still see there's that culture that they want to go out there and do it like for each other. And maybe that's just me like observing from afar, but I think it's something that's been like really different to like, last few seasons where you can kind of see everyone kind of wants to just for the season to be over and that no one really wants to be there. So that's a really good thing. And then like going into next season, I think it's the first time in a while that we have all our combinations pretty much set in stone already. So we can really hone our combinations and hopefully the attack goes to another level. Latu, hopefully he takes a big jump going into next season and he can like nail down the 7 jersey. And then we've obviously still got Adam Dewey who can play 7 there as well. But yeah, all in all, lots of really good signs for next season. Let's just hope we can stay all right with injury and controversy. Because as a Tigers fan, we're always like, we're never far from the headlines. So let's just hope we can, keep it quiet, keep it boring. So yeah, here we go.
No more petitions this off-season, boys. Let's give it a miss this year.
I'd be very happy never to do another petition again because it means we're going in the right direction. Things are happening, the way that we would all like them to be going. That was the first time, Zach, that the spine, I'm not saying like the spine that we expected, because it's not the spine necessarily that we expected. It was a spine that many of us thought we might sort of have at some stage, but it was the first time that Buller, Luai, Latu Fainu playing at halfback and Appy played all in that game. And if you look, and I know we kind of can't help but look at 2026 in this question, but it's been a disrupted spine year for the West Tigers. And is that something that is going to be a contributing factor to a West Tigers finishing in the top 8 next year if we can build those combinations that Declan is talking about?
Yeah, I think we've seen, again, I'll go back to that word evidence. I think we've seen evidence that once that spine in whatever configuration it ends up looking like clicks, because we've seen elements of it. You throw Dewey in there, like you said, in that lock middle role, halfback, pseudo, whatever the swap is with he and Latu. We've seen that look absolutely electric. Now, I thought on the weekend it looked average again, to be honest, and in large part that can be obviously due to the Dewey experiment of the last 4 or so weeks prior really catching fire, and all of a sudden we're missing that cog. So I understand that the passes were behind, they were high, the timing was a little off, but we can see there that they're the elements of a lot of dangerous players, and now we're equipping those dangerous players in the spine with weapons on either side of them, both in the second row and centres. So we really are starting to stack that starting side, and the spine will be the beneficiaries of that. Latu had a bit of a funny game, as an individual, but in a lot of ways, like Benji said earlier in the week, he's doing things that Benji himself, he said, isn't even doing at this stage. He's going to make errors. He's going to throw passes high. He's going to sit back a little bit in defence like he did to cause a try or two. He's still a teenager, or he's just 20. So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think Benji keeps reiterating that he's a long-term project and prospect, but that off-season into where we need to go, we could sort of look back and consider maybe the back end of this year as that little bit of a precursor or a warm-up to what we might get kicking off into next season.
The funny thing is, like, and again, it'll be shown when we have a look at the stats, but Alex Twal, like, if you had come out of a spaceship and you'd only ever seen this game, you'd say, man, that Alex Twal, he's a star player for the West Tigers, isn't he? Like, we've found a lock there. I mean, he's just gone to another level, and then that does raise those questions about, well, what happens in 26 with Dewey? What happens with Fainu potentially playing lock? Where is Jock Madden in all of this? So we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, kudos to Twal. He's really lifted his game. I thought his battle with Corey Horsburgh was a great battle yesterday, and I thought it was pretty much a split decision. I don't think either got over the top of either, but it was a good battle. The West Tigers podcast forum, join the conversation there. The one-word submissions, Tigers do, came up with 3 different words: proud, as we all were; apprentice, the ref appeared to be a first-year apprentice; and missed, saying we missed Dewey. Tiger Town SFS, they went for the word 2026. We are no longer a bottom 4 team. And I guess that's literally, we're not a bottom 4 team. We may well be a top 8 team in 2026. Mike's word was effort. And the Richo meter, Mike couldn't go any higher than average. But I think we were a little bit, certainly for big chunks of that game, a little bit above average, I would suggest, if I'm being honest. Natmac 78's word was fate. Our fate was sealed when they drove the trophy to the ground. It's actually not a trophy, if you want to be really specific. Natmac 78, it's the JJ Gilton and Shield, but who's being pedantic? But I'm hearing you. I know what you're saying. And Snake's word was 7. We need an organising 7. This is the key to future success. Declan, kicking game, I thought, as we mentioned earlier, let us down a little bit at times. In particular, some of those bombs, once again, I thought could have been a little bit deeper. But that kicking game remains a bit of a worry for me.
Yeah, particularly your long kicking game. It can really turn a poor set into a good one. I mean, prime example, last week against the Cowboys, Jake Clifford, I think that was our best defensive set of the entire game. But then he kicks like a 80-meter on the ball, nearly goes for a 40-20, and then Skelton probably should have got to the full, it bounces, and then they tackle us on our 10, and they get momentum. I think they score. Actually, that's when Taylor May makes that mistake, and then they go on to score. We just don't really have that at the moment outside Adam Dewey. So, and that's something that Latu and Luai, they don't really have for their games at the moment. Luai's got a really good short kicking game. Latu, he's obviously young, so we have to give him time to develop. So it's really something that only Adam Dewey brings. So I think that's probably a big reason why we have done quite well the last few times when Dewey's been playing at 7, because he does have a good big boot on him. So that's a real question going into the preseason in terms of what we do, because I think that's the only thing. If we start with Latu and Luai next season, I would worry about the kicking game, especially when we're under pressure, because that can sometimes be the difference, as we saw with the Raiders. I mean, Jamal Fogarty was just putting it on a dime, and that's what kind of got them home at the end. So, but I don't know if I would necessarily go as far as to say we need to recruit a 7, though. I mean, it is telling that they did go after Adam Reynolds when he was still off contact with the Broncos. So clearly there's some internal talk about that. But I think unless it was the right person that came along and it just ticked all the boxes, I'm not sure I'd go to market at this stage.
But the other side of that, Zach, I was just going to say that if you look at teams that win premierships, if you look at teams that generally are the top flight teams, they generally have a general. They have that halfback that can steer a team around, take the team by the scruff of the neck. And I mean, Luai has tried, and Luai I'm not taking anything away. I thought he had a great game, but it's just not him. He's not that organising half. Nor was Benji really for 90% of his career, maybe a bit towards the end. And then let's say you've got a spread or a choice of Madden, Dewey and Latu Fainu. I don't see any of those 3 guys necessarily being the people that will steer this team to better than 8th or 9th spot, if that makes sense. I mean, is it something that is it a weakness that maybe we need to look at trying to strengthen over the next couple of years, is to get more of a traditional, and they don't fall out of the trees. They're not easy to get, but is that something that maybe we will need?
I think that's a path you can go down, and it would be easy to take, say, an Adam Reynolds healthy and plug and play him into a system whereby we've got effectively 2 5/8s in Luai and Latu and work them around.
Mm,
Um, I think it can work as it is though. I think that the fact that we've re-signed Adam Dewey is very, very important to that. And I think for me, it's not so much having that classic general style halfback, but it's the ability to play territory. And it's a lot of those general style halfbacks play that well through their kicking game. But your fifth tackle options, regardless of where you're on the field, can also parlay into that as well. I think we started to play territory relatively well, and we have in some ways early in games in recent times. And you can see that in allowing a fifth tackle set to die on a short ball to a second rower or whatnot, and
mm,
being happy to play them out of their own end. So I think there are elements to that there. And I think when Dewey was playing in that halfback role, he primarily used his kicking game to steer us around and play that territory game, and it worked quite well. And had we done that on the weekend against Canberra with the defensive intensity that we showed, I think we would have actually reaped a lot more benefits. I
mm.
think that we were working so hard on that side of the ball, and when we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, particularly with those unforced errors around fifth tackle options, and not giving our defensive guys and our defensive efforts the chance to pin them down in those ends as often as probably some of those efforts deserve, then it does make it hard on yourself. So
Mm.
personally, with the current setup, we need Dewey there to kick us around the field, and I think we can then play off the back of that. And I'm sure, as I mentioned earlier, I think Latu will continue to grow into that role. It will be unique to him, but I think we do have the tools there,
Mm.
and fitting. Yeah, I'd probably stick with that for now rather than go out and chase someone, Sands and Reynolds or something.
Yeah, unless somebody absolutely fell in our lap, but the chances of that are probably pretty slim. Unless they're, Daily Cherry Evans looking for a season.
I don't
No,
know. Would you take him at the moment? So if
no,
the Roosters deal fell through, would you take him, boys?
no.
No,
Declan?
probably not. I would take Zavala if he became available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isaiah Katoa,
Yeah,
maybe.
Katoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
the run meter's pretty. Not a huge amount of difference there between the Raiders and the Tigers. So they made 1,539. We made 1,405. But our post-contact meters are 455 to their 497. But the stat that really stands out to me when it comes to our offense is our average set distance was more than 10 meters better than theirs. Like, we did a great job of getting down the field, Declan. And so many times we've spoken about, even in the last couple of months, the Tigers struggling to make meters, our forwards struggling to get across the advantage line.
Hmm.
Where's this been all year?
Yeah, I think that, and it was strange as well because like Taruva had like a rare bad game for me. Like he
Yeah.
couldn't really like he obviously dropped the ball for that try, which was like disappointing because I thought we were kind of handling really comfortably. But then like even in yardage, like he wasn't like that effective. It was actually Skelton who probably looked more effective. And
Yeah.
you would say that like our meters as well, they were really earned. Like I never really thought that the Raiders really switched off any point defensively, but we really stayed disciplined and we managed to like come up with a few like clever ways to get Samuel out of the ball to then like kind of get out of our own yards. And I thought Starford Toa was really good as well, like coming out of our own end with his running game. He didn't really get much clean space, unfortunately, in attack, but he did a lot of like the dirty stuff really, really well. And then I thought that Polly was really good as well. Like we've had a few like bad Polly games, so it's good that he came up. Unfortunately, he still dropped the ball over the line again, which I like. That you'd like your time over again. But I thought, other than that, he was really, really good. And then obviously Terrell May and like Twal, like super consistent, and like Samuel Fainu is like really good as well. So yeah, I think that if we can just like, I think a lot of it depends on if we can get something out of Polly because then we look a lot more like a balanced like forward pack when he's on as well.
What's interesting about Pole, and I was thinking about this today, Declan, is he has a knack for ruining big moments. But then I thought, but he's getting himself into those big moments. And that's something you can't say about a lot of players. Like Alex Twal for the last X number of years was never
Mm.
a player that was there in those big moments, other than that one, his first try that he scored. But I think that's the sign of a player that's going after the game and wants to be involved there. He just that last execution, isn't it? Like last week, the double movement, dropping the ball over the line this week. I'm sure he's been involved in a really key miss or two earlier in the season as well.
Mm.
Just one
Mm.
little moment. So I do like that about Polo, I guess, given how young he is, but he's got to get that right.
Well, two things. Was it worth having a look at? Should the referee have had a look at that grounding?
I
Because
mean, Paulie looked pretty disappointed. His body language gave it away.
yeah, yeah.
Like I didn't even look at, like I didn't even see a video replay, but his head dropped, so I just
Mm.
assumed that he knew he didn't get it down.
They didn't show another angle of it at
No.
all, so
Mm.
I'm assuming it was pretty obvious. We just didn't see it from the rear view, but he was there. It
Yeah.
was there to be had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like if you remember back to the Benji days, part of having Benji Marshall as one of your players was understanding that occasionally he was going to put the ball into the fourth row of the grandstand. I wonder if that's just going to be part of not only the Fonua Pole experience, but maybe the Latu Fainu experience. Like Latu might end up also being one of those guys that just has that moment in a game. Like it just sort of comes with the territory. They might do 8 or 9 good things, and then there is that one sort of moment that they wish they could have back. Do you think that Declan? Do you think that maybe could be something that's just a Fonua Pole thing? We just have those moments, and he doesn't get past that.
I mean, I think the problem with that is that like he plays in like he's a starting middle forward, and it's just so crucial that forwards don't miss like
Mm,
easy tackles or they like if they're half a second late, at least a quick play of the ball. If they don't get like a wrestle right, quick play of the ball, then the entire team is under pressure. So I just think the modern day front row, if you look at the elite guys who are in those representative teams and who are winning Dalian medals, like their tackle percentage is just like really, really good, really, really high. You don't see them make these kind of mistakes. And then with the ball, like it's just so crucial to like yes, I get what you mean. Like, like they're gonna make mistakes. They're all human beings. Like even
mm,
Payne Haas drops the ball sometimes, but you need it to be like on a rare occasion and not something that happens like every game, and that's the problem. And like as Zach said, like he's still really young. He came in when he was 18, and I
mm.
think we kind of all hold him to expectations where we think he's older than he is, but he's still only like 22,
Yeah.
23. So like I'm not like in the shredder or anything like that because he's still got tons of promise. But yeah, it's just something he has to work on, and then hopefully next season we see more good games and bad games. On Latu, I don't know, like it's kind of similar because he's playing that halfback role, and you kind of need him to be like really steady because Luai is kind of the one at the moment that's like chances in his arm, something might end up in the third row.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure if you can have like two halves doing that in the modern
Mm,
game, but yeah, we'll see.
mm. On Pole, Zach, so it has become a theme talking about that one extra prop. But if you could copy and paste a Terrell May and have another Terrell May as your starting prop, God only knows how we're going to get another Terrell May falling out of the trees. But Richo's shaking the tree over the offseason, and you can move Pole back to the bench. Do you subscribe to that thought that he is a better bench player than a starting player?
Yeah, I do. At least at the moment, I think his skill set suits that. He's very impactful. I think he's the type of. I'm a fan of non-traditional bench rotations. I don't mind the concept of props coming on from 20 and playing out the game.
Yeah.
I think he has the motor to do that. I think the best use of Polo going forward is just rather than make him a general practitioner or a jack of all trades, I think they need to hone him into a specific role, be that on the bench or starter, and really
Mm,
work on the systems and skill sets he specifically needs to that. Attention to detail if he's going to play big minutes is something that we need focus on. And
yeah.
we've spoken before about the fact that he's can tend to, wane a little bit at times. So, whereas if he's impactful, rightio, well, let's get you in there doing a whole lot of more explosive work in the gym, and let's try to see how much work rate you can get out of your minutes. Maybe up your intensity in your training, that sort of stuff too. So,
Mm,
the bottom line with Fanua is that he's an absolutely tremendous talent, and as Declan said, he's a very young man, and middles take a long time to mature. I've got no worries about him long term whatsoever.
mm.
I just think that part of the next stage in his development is not so much physical, but it's from the mental side of things, and it's being able to stay focused for long periods of time will really help his game. But I do think that comes as you mature as a footballer.
He made 12 runs, 116 metres. Terrell May, 14 runs, 121 metres. Sam Fainu, 13 runs, 113 metres. Sione, Twal, Hunt, Murray, and Suka all averaged about 9 metres per run, which is pretty good. Taylor May, 7 tackle breaks. Jarrell Skelton 6 tackle breaks. I thought, as what you were saying, Declan is right. I thought Skelton outplayed Taruva this year, probably for the first time this year. I thought he had a very good game. We'll talk about who replaces him, and that's going to cue certain discussion about a young player, I'm absolutely sure, in a few minutes. Latu and Luai both ran for over 100 metres, so that's another thing in regards to the halves. I liked that they both looked to mix up their game between distributing and running. I think we look better when that's the case from those two. Twal 52 tackles, Appy 61 tackles, Terrell May 59 tackles. Terrell May, Declan, I thought he had an excellent game. I thought he's, if anything, he's got better as the year has gone on. The levels that he's hitting are super impressive. We're just so lucky to have him and his brother.
Yeah, I think that he is the anchor of the team. Like both, especially in defense, like you can tell immediately when like he's off the field. Like we just suddenly don't look as together in defense. And I think he just has like I don't think he's gotten enough credit. I know he got a lot of credit at the start of the season, but then like I don't know, like people kind of I don't know if they got used to the performance, but
that's it. Yeah.
And then
This
like
becomes the expectation.
But it really, yeah, but he really does deserve like all the plaudits and like applause we can give him, because I don't really remember last time we had like a forward leader like this in the team. And just like on another prop, if we can get like another starting prop of like who can play like a 8, 9, 10 out of 10 every week, I think it'll take tons of pressure off Terrell May. And then you'll see more of his ball running as well, because now he has to spend so much time and effort in defense that if he had like a partner who can like go with him, then it would make him really good as well, even better than he is at the moment. So yeah, it's just I'm just so happy that we managed to get him. And like last year, we were all kind of the Stefano situation was it was what it was, but I don't think any of us would change it now, knowing that we've got a player like Terrell, and then obviously to get Taylor as well as a kind of like back end of that deal is obviously like great for us.
Do you think he'll be the player of the year, Zach? Is Terrell the man to beat for the award?
I think early in the season he was $1, and he hasn't really dropped off. I just think that the rest of the squad or people in the rest of the squad have picked up their game since we've sort of found form in the back end of the year. Taylor probably came in too late, but my goodness, if he had played like that for at least half the year, he would have been a shoo-in over his brother. So, Sam Weller, since he's come back from injury, has been outstanding. Stafford earlier in the year was untouchable. Adam Dewey himself, we forget that being injured last week, he's had one of probably, if not his best season for the club. But in terms of Terrell coming in, setting a standard, doing it consistently, going from, essentially bench player at the Roosters unwanted to being probably unfairly left out of the Origin squad. You got to think he's the short price favourite, but it is nice to actually have a few names that we could throw up as legitimate reasons that you could make a case for. And Appy's another one too. He's had a pretty good season under it all. So yeah, it's good to have a few players once again finding form heading into the back end of the year. Bodes well for next year.
Yeah, well, that's the difference, isn't it, Declan? Is it every other year up until now, at least over the last 5 or 6 years, we've probably been pretty able to nominate who's going to get the Player of the Year award. Whereas now, this year, you could probably say, as Zach was saying, maybe 5 or 6 guys: Sunia Turuva, Stafford Toa. The list goes on of guys that could potentially take that award, which is exactly where we want to be.
Yeah, and it's nice that a rookie isn't going to win it. So, like when Dream Villa just came out of nowhere, was playing Flag the year before, then took away the Player of the Year, and I think we all kind of thought Galvin would win it the year after as well. So it's nice that it's hotly contested. Yeah, and I think it just shows that the level of the squad's really taken off. But yeah, I don't know, just like watching Taylor and May, I think I agree with you, Joe. Like Zach, like if only he was here, like, and obviously that wasn't possible, but like the entire preseason. Next year, and if he can just like keep himself out of trouble and keep himself on a straight and narrow, like he could play Origin. Like he's that good. He's got the talent for it, and it's kind of like he kind of reminds me of like the presence that Olam had with us when he was like on the field. Obviously, like without the crippling knee injuries and like the fitness, but just like that presence on the edge. And now all of a sudden, that entire left edge just looks amazing. Like all the pieces are there. And now Luai's playing well, Latu Fainu is playing well. You're even seeing Bulla come sweeping around, creating space. So that's just something really exciting for next year that hopefully we can continue to improve on. Because I honestly think that that's one of the best left edges in terms of form in the comp right now. So.
Yeah, well, I've written down on my sheet here Kickow, and that is because there were shades of Penrith 2022, I think it would have been 21, 22, 22, maybe 21, where Luai and Kickow were just so explosive on that left side for Penrith. But that I thought it was Kickow playing for us, but it was Sam Fainu. I think that combination was really super impressive.
And like all the combinations in the side, mate, like it's in its infancy, and that's what's exciting. It's already doing amazing things. We've seen Jareen go straight through, Jerome go straight through, Samuela go straight through, and Talon go straight through in the last 6 weeks, all going to that left edge from taking the right option. And
Yeah.
they're all new to each other. Oh, I mean, obviously, I know there's a little combination there in the Penrith, but in terms of our sides and our structures and our systems, we're already seeing how potent that side alone can be.
Mm.
So, yeah, look, having in talking just about that, those players coming together, yeah, pretty exciting around it. One thing, just very quickly, Joel,
Yeah.
a big swing back very briefly. You mentioned the meters per set. We kept them to around 32. I think you said meters per set. We were up over 42.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to mention, and I made sure we just swung back to that really quickly, is
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
intent in the wrestle. Once we had a hold of the play to hold them up, swing them around, and push them back, was noticeably different. Something
Yeah.
that this side has never done, and I think that heavily contributed to a slower play the ball and allowing our defensive line the capacity to really handle their hooker, but
Yep.
also just our positioning and getting back off as well. And it was clear how often they were holding them up in position to try to manipulate to the ground. That last 1 or 2% that we haven't quite been able to do. So another sign, maybe another piece of evidence that we have the elements there
Yep.
of quite a robust defensive side across the board as well.
Yeah, well, we were stifling their offload. There
Yeah.
was definitely a different strategy in terms of we were holding our own with the first contact, and then we were managing to wrap the ball up and stifle their offloads, which completely nullified a lot of their attacking prowess. So yeah, it was really promising to see. The Jarrell Skelton HIA, not confirmed. I haven't seen confirmation, but it looks like it was a grade one. So that means that his season is over. And a certain player by the name of Masi Makassini was withdrawn from the New South Wales Cup team, not injured, not for any other reason. This has got to be it, Declan. This is going to be his debut, you would think, against the Titans. Perfect time to do it, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think I'm just like in my mind, I'm just a little bit hesitant because I've never seen him play senior grade on the
Mm.
wing, so I'm not sure how he'll go like under the like defusing those high balls against like professional athletes because I've seen him play the majority of the time at centre in league, and he's been really good in the air but in attack. So I'll be interested to see how he goes like taking those like ones coming off his try line because that is a really important skill that guys like Taruva and Skelton are usually really good at. But yeah, I just think it's time, Joe. I just don't really see the point of naming someone like Charlie Staines there, who like like he's a good player, but there's really no utility.
Mm.
Might as well just give Makassini a go. I'm not sure. Like obviously, like Benji will know because he's training with them, and by all accounts, he's a freak. But
Mm.
I do feel a little bit bad because I feel like although we've talked about trying to avoid it, I feel like Makassini's got a lot of like media hype
Mm.
around him, which I think over time just shows that like it's a little bit of a negative eventually. But yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully he gets named and like hopefully he plays well because he's definitely got the talent. But yeah, and then if he plays outside Taylor, is quite a strong
Mm.
defensive centre on that left edge, and I'm sure he'll do well. But fingers crossed.
On the right edge.
No, I would move Taruva back to the
Okay.
right, and
Right.
then yeah, put
Yep.
Makassini, who's a left-sided player, to the left. That's what I would do if I was the coach.
Well, Zach's already sent through an email to Benji requesting that Makassini gets played on the wing. Is that right?
Yeah, he'll play.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, there's no way he's not playing. I mean, yeah, I'll walk backwards back down to Sydney if he doesn't. He'll play on the wing. I like the idea that Declan's talking about there. Switching, I think if you're going to do that, you put him on at least his preferred side,
Mm.
and you put him outside the bully, the bodyguard, the strong defensive centre that can even cover if you make mistakes. Hamasi, if he gets a crack, he'll go great. So I'm not worried about that. I'm excited. It's the end of the year. We're playing the team on the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
All signs generally for us in that scenario point to a disappointing loss, but we've turned this corner. We hope so. Bring the debut on and bring a nice crisp game, and hopefully we can see put on a bit of a show. That'll be exciting.
Since the Titans are wooden spoon favourites, does that mean we get to throw spoons at them at full time? Like, can we get as fan base just go and like chuck wooden spoons on the floor? Because that would be really therapeutic for us as a fan base, I think.
I was at a game at Campbelltown, must have been 10 years ago, where one of the fans handed John Cartwright the wooden spoon. He went up to the fence and called him over and handed him, and he wasn't very impressed. It is the perfect, and Benji's going to actually, there's going to be a ceremony where he hands over the wooden spoon over to Des Hasler. It's going to come in a box like the JJ Gilton and Shield on Saturday. Perfect scenario for a debut. I mean, that's you couldn't, as Zach said, you couldn't line it up better than a non-game. It's really not going to make much difference in terms of where we finish, playing the team at the bottom, and a positions open up. I'd be crazy. I think they'd be crazy if they didn't use the opportunity to blood him and get that first game out of the way, because you're probably not going to have such a low stakes opportunity to introduce someone for a while. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that.
And an open vacant position that he's played before, not at senior level, granted, but it's a position he has played. So
exactly. Alrighty. Thank you, guys. We'll keep an eye out for the Tiger Town podcast, the midweek edition of the West Tigers podcast as well, previewing that Gold Coast game. And Yachty's quiz will be in there. And don't forget to join the conversation on the West Tigers podcast forum. Thank you, boys. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.